Hey there, folks. Real Julia here. Always have to put out that disclaimer because if you know me from my YouTube channel, Dr. McCoy, then you know that I have a digital clone out there, a digital twin, doing what I couldn't do. And in this video, I wanted to tell you the actual story in a concise way that gives you just one video to watch. What actually happened to me, how I went through 300 plus remedies to try to come out of the hole I was in, how this one strange product completely redefined my health, and yeah, the story. So let's begin. So it is January 23rd, 2026 as I record this, and you are seeing like an 80% healed Julia. That's how I feel every day. And I'm just coming out of a sickness where I was down for 3 days, and literally 2 days ago, I could not talk. My voice was completely out. And in that sickness, I had major nervous system dysregulation because my body couldn't maintain temperature. And I started having all these symptoms that I hadn't had in a year. And it just hit me, the PTSD, the fear of not living, just really crazy stuff. And in 3 days, I'm like 85% better. And I'm having full days again. I'm back to driving and dropping my kid off at school and doing computer work, and life is there. And it's crazy how the enemy definitely tried to use that sickness to tell me, Julia, you're not well yet, but I am. Because 3 days later, the virus is gone. My voice is back. A little weak, that's okay. And when I got through that sickness, I was doing 30 sprays a day, and I would spray this, which goes under your tongue. It's a sublingual spray. I would spray this directly on the back of my throat where it really hurt, and my vocal cords were struggling just to maintain life. And the only way I can describe, it felt like my vocal cords were sparkling, which is such a weird description. And it restored me. I also took, remedies. I'm learning about herbal remedies. This is 100% nature's plants, and I'm going to tell you about it. And I believe that we're going to have to reclaim our health, because by the end of last year, I had consulted over 50 doctors, and none of them had the full picture on what it really took for me to heal. And because they only had pieces, Eastern medicine, integrative medicine, functional medicine, Western medicine, homeopathic, naturopath, I went to all of them. And because they only had pieces, and the majority of them weren't led by God, they weren't spirit-led, which is so important in these days, those different pieces without the whole picture actually made me worse. I went to a highly rated specialist, a brain and spine specialist that even AI told me was a perfect fit for all my symptoms. And I literally had to get money back because 2 days after their treatment, I felt like I was going to land in the ER again. I could not stand up. My blood was not returning to my head. My blood pressure dropped. My veins hurt. Doctors made me worse. So here's what actually happened to me. November of 2024, I got COVID for the first time. And I was breaking down that year. I was flying out every single month. I went from being superwoman, strong. I was somebody that juiced, exercised, 10-mile bike rides on the weekends out here in the mountains without an e-bike. Very strong. 33 years old. November, fall of 2024, I got COVID. Like everyone else, because we were told this by our government and by the health organizations that are supposedly set up to keep us safe, which are actually incentivized and set up for profit. And a healed customer is not a return customer. A sick customer is a return customer. I will shout that till the end of my days. Wake up. It makes me mad. Moment of silence, because that is the biggest. It says in the Bible that all nations will be deceived by their pharmakeia. We get our word pharmaceuticals from the Greek word pharmakeia, which literally means sorcery, drugs, and incantation. all nations were deceived by her pharmakeia, America. I was very rational. I am very rational still. But you can call me crazy, and that's fine. And in 2025, when I crashed, because I thought COVID was a respiratory virus and I thought I would just get over it, like I've gotten over everything else in my life, I started losing my hair, November of 2024. I started having emotional, major ups and downs. I felt like I was disoriented sometimes when I would drive, and I just brushed it all off. It's stress. It was my biggest mistake to do that. But I'm busy. I have a 3-year-old at home under pressure to constantly perform because that's my nature. No family. I don't have a mom or a dad I can call. Just keep pushing, right? That's been my life mantra. So in January 11th, 2025, I crashed. I went from hiking, feeling pretty normal, but also still a little weird. The emotional stuff hadn't left. Felt really weird when I was on my computer, really disoriented. I couldn't really watch TV. Something was wrong up here, but I didn't pay attention. So on January 11th, after 3-4 months of that, and the thing that I thought was a respiratory virus, January 11th, I end up in the ER. I'm turning blue. I cannot pick up my arms, and no one knows what's wrong. But the minute I land in the ER, this was in Arizona. We were out hiking in Sedona. The first thing they asked, actually it was 2 questions. A little remote ER in Sedona. As I look back, because of all I've learned, that I've had to learn to heal myself God's way. So much of this just infuriates me because the American people have been so hoodwinked. First thing they asked me in the ER was 2 questions. I'm 33, keep in mind. Turning blue. I was starting to see a light in the corner that I believe was the other realm. They asked me, do you have any history of blood clots? And then they asked me, did you get the vaccine? Why would they ask that? Why would that be the first questions? So of course, no and no. The first blood test they ever ran on me, and I had over 40 tests done to uncover what was wrong with me since that moment. But the first test the ER ran on me was a D-dimer. You know what a D-dimer is? It measures blood clots in your body, in your blood vessels. And your body only raises the D-dimer when your plasma is breaking down blood clots. That's the only reason. And I had an elevated D-dimer. So they rushed me in, they give me a CAT scan. Of course, we don't know anything at the time. And in 2024, I was the person that was like, no, those aren't chemtrails, those are comtrails. Our government would never allow, and the entities set up for our safety would never allow us to be taken out in this way. Sorry, I don't believe that. Put your tinfoil hat on, come back to me. That was me, right? Elevated D-dimer. 10 months later, a functional medicine doctor goes and tells me, oh, by the way, if you've ever had an elevated D-dimer, you're in a lot of trouble from COVID. I looked at her and I said, I had that 10 months ago, January when I was in the ER. She's like, what? So no one caught that because the system isn't set up to catch this. And that's on purpose. Back in 1910, the American Medical Association, the AMA, outlawed frequency medicine. Since then, we have been under attack in frequencies in different parts of America. Experiments being done. 5G, 6G, it's all very dangerous to our health. So as the year went on, I could not sit in our electric car. We had to sell it, and I developed over 200 symptoms. In February, every single day, I was in a fibrillation. We had a 6-point EKG that I would measure myself. One time we went out to eat a normal full meal, and immediately after I had horrific chest pains. I was doubled over praying not to die. It was like the food compressed right here, and it would not go down. I didn't know why. but everything seemed to be happening in my lung area. And when I was sitting in the car, it would feel like there was ropes around my lungs and I could no longer catch a full breath. And some days that was so bad, I would just close my eyes and focus on breathing. And the anxiety was horrific. And the anxiety didn't come from my head. It came from what my body was going through. And when I was told by doctors, we were in the ER over 5 times since January 11th. When I was told by doctors, it's all in your head, you're drinking too much water, you're not getting enough electrolytes, I knew they were wrong. I knew something else was going on. So I kept digging. AI was a huge help. I learned different prompts to measure the irises of my eye, and from that I would get daily health updates that were more accurate than any doctor. But also AI led me astray because it has guardrails against truth. It was not until fall of 2025 that things began to be clear, because I left the internet and I left the world of curated data, lobotomized data, and I entered the world of truth. I read books. One book that really impacted me was Dr. Brian Ardis's book on COVID. And in his book, he has screenshots of the DNA testing done on the actual spike protein from Italian and French researchers. A screenshot of the DNA test results of the spike protein, which back in the 50s, studies on this began, 1950s. And in the University of Pennsylvania especially, scientists emerged from that university that have since been rewarded by entities like the American Cancer Society, given Nobel Peace Prizes, and their discoveries were closely linked to the spike protein. So what Dr. Brian Ardis found was that the spike protein comes not from bats, not from fish, comes from 2 rare Chinese snakes. It's cobra venom. That's what COVID is. It's snake venom. When I read that and I began to research all my symptoms against venomous snake attacks, it all made sense. The COVID symptoms of losing your smell, of mental slowdown, of vagus nerve shutdown mimics how snake venom works. Snake venom attacks your brain stem, slowing down all the activities in your body so you freeze so the snake can kill its victim. But it mimics a respiratory virus, which it is not. And the light just clicked and all my symptoms got so clear. So I kept learning about quantum and frequency and how our bodies can't heal if we're under attack in a realm that goes beyond protein and amino acids and chemicals, which is what the spike protein, which is what 5G, which is what the interference of Wi-Fi and smart meters and all this stuff creates, right? So what I learned, so much. It's hard to even put this in a stream of words. I hope I'm making sense. But what I learned going through adrenal failure, I was diagnosed with Lyme's disease. I was diagnosed with long COVID. I was diagnosed with neurotoxic black mold. I had the highest levels of candida a doctor of 13 years in natural healthcare had ever seen in her life. On and on and on. I had it. You name it, I had it. And it was like I couldn't heal. And I felt that every day. I felt trapped. When I learned about quantum and frequency, I felt like I had the keys of healing finally. Because if we are under frequency attack, then we can heal through frequency. And I bought a device called the AMP coil. It was the first time I got back to a full night's sleep. I had not been sleeping in 6 months. It was horrific. I felt like I was just on the verge of not making it because I couldn't even sleep anymore. My bed was horrifying. I would lay down and something would happen. My heart rate would accelerate. It was like my body thought I had to fight a tiger. The minute I laid down, and it was tied to a rib out of place and an injury that I was constantly feeling on my left side where my heart was. And so I began to use these frequency devices. I used the amp coil, which is a $10,000 device. And then a friend introduced me to frequency-specific microcurrent, which is more accessible, I think, than the amp coil, which is very expensive. And frequency-specific microcurrent has over 100 programs you can run that speak directly to your cells and get your cells to restore by themselves through specific hertz, because every organ in our body operates at a specific frequency. So all that helped. It helped. It moved me forward. But I truly began to feel myself healing and unpeeling layers. Like literally, I've had probably a quarter pound of dead skin fall off my feet. I'm literally shedding toxins. And it's such a scary, crazy process, because I believe my body had been so overloaded by the point of breaking, which COVID makes all of this just so much worse. I truly believe if we didn't have COVID, we could detox and we could get through the problems we face. But it is a trap, and it was invented, absolutely invented, if you study the trail. So this quantum spray, which I talk about a lot, is a complete blood detox. If you go through a month, you start to detox your blood. If you go through 4 months, you have all new blood. And it was the thing I could tell. And it's a really scary product. I actually had it on my shelf for 2 months because it does something called retracing. And in retracing, you feel all the pain and even sometimes injury and illness that you've experienced before. They all come up and then they release. So I've had like days of just crying, days of emotional release, days of pain where I had to kind of sit through some pain. Flu-like symptoms come up, but if I remain patient and I believe in the process, I've noticed all those things leave and I am better after. So my first week on this, I looked better. My first month, anxiety was gone and chronic fatigue was gone. On the third month, I began to be able to drive again without debilitating collapse, without my left side feeling dehydrated and dead. And the sickness that I had earlier this week definitely tried to set me back because it created nervous system imbalance, which is our biggest, it's going to be one of the biggest things we have to heal, which is something no provider is trained to handle. And most providers make it worse because most drugs, most herbs, most homeopathics, many plants, many foods, many diets just make the nervous system dysregulation worse. I was carnivore for 11 months and it definitely helped with the nervous system, but it did not help my liver. I think it added, I gained weight, the fatigue got worse, the candida got worse. So when I started the plant spray, I lost all taste for steak. I love eggs. I still do eggs every day. And eggs have choline, which restores your nervous system. And butter, real butter is amazing. And protein shakes with whole fat, like coconut milk and amino acids. Those things are really, really good, but I still can't do things like juicing, too many herbs, too many bitter salads, like nuts and seeds even, can set off my nervous system. I need fats. I need to rebuild the myelin sheaths and the things that have been taken down because of how much COVID and the accompanying infections stripped me. And I believe, I was bitten by a tick when I was 9. I lived in a moldy house most of my childhood, but I overcame all those things. I didn't collapse. I learned how to take care of myself. I ate a paleo diet for years and it cured so many of my health problems. But when COVID attacked me, I'm telling you, I almost died at 33. And it's crazy to look back, but it was the culmination of things. It was the dry, hot desert air combined with sitting against a Wi-Fi router and LED lights everywhere and 5G. We are living in a city that was one of the first to put up 5G. And now we see the infrastructure for the next systems literally right down the road, going up all around us. And we're leaving. We're going to go more and more remote. We have a whole plan. So we've got to prepare. And we have to take this seriously, guys. One of my missions in life is because of what I know and have learned to be the truth about our health in America. It is now my goal, and I've had prophetic dreams at night about God giving me a voice heard around the world. And I'm like, I don't even really want this calling. It's heavy. It's hard to know all this. But the hope is I know how to heal because I went through what felt like the worst of it. And I'm healing. Just to be able to drive, to hang out with my family again. To be 80% better after being sick, really sick for 3 days with a flu is incredible. You know, to feel joy and peace, to get 8.5 hours of sleep every night. You know, I went from not sleeping 3 to 5 nights out of a week to now it's really just like one day every 2 weeks. And the other nights are 8.5 hours of sleep. It's amazing. So I'm getting there. I'm healing. I just crossed 3 months on the plant spray, and every single week is better and better. And I am high dosing. You do 12 sprays. You do 4 sprays 3 times a day for 12 sprays. That's the detox to cleanse your blood. And I'm doing 30 sprays a day, which is crazy. But I needed it. My body was in a really rough place, and this stuff is life. It's 44 of the most healing plants created on Earth. And it's the quantum frequency of a plant. And these plants are harvested at peak growing time when these plants are in full bloom. I'm going to put in the description more details on this stuff so you can get it yourself. You can absolutely buy it. We have a whole website we've built with my story that kind of clarifies the pricing and the package, because one bottle won't really help you. You need to do the blood upgrade, they call it, and 4 bottles will last you 30 days. And guys, I am not somebody that hops on and sells. This is a network marketing company. I'll be fully transparent, right? I get commissions when you buy through my link. You have to buy through a sponsor. They do not want this product on shelves. It will be taken down by the FDA. It's that powerful for healing. It can cure. It does not create repeat customers if you stick with it. It cures. And I'm experiencing that. I'm walking proof. And I have a list of over 300 things I've tried, costing almost $100,000. And I know many stories like this. I'm blessed that we were able. I hate that we burned through money like that, but when you are 33 years old, you've lost your health, you can't sit up, you're wondering if your heart will keep beating, you have a 3-year-old that needs you, you have a 10-year-old that's praying for you. My daughter was a prayer warrior, really pulled my chin up so many times. Then you are going to be desperate to get back to full health, and that was me. I honestly wish I wasn't making this video. I wish times weren't this bad. I wish this wasn't even happening. But the truth is, it is. And if we have a story like this to tell, we need to be telling it because people need hope. And that's the reason I made this channel, Quantum Healing Mysteries, to talk about the depths of the evil in the quantum realm happening right now and how we can use that very same realm to fight back and heal. And on this channel, I will be inviting doctors that were shut down over COVID that have deep knowledge. I only want the best of the best, so please don't pitch me. I have already found these people. God has brought me directly to some incredible resources, like accidentally meeting someone at church that knew about a quantum healing book that I've never heard of and no one else knows about. That talks about how our bodies are, in fact, a living temple. And we have points of entry for sickness and illness. And this knowledge has been hidden from us, keep in mind, since 1910, on purpose. On purpose. This should be, I believe, mainstream knowledge. In fact, in many other countries, it is. It is. Prescription drugs are not first-line help in many other countries. Ultimately, our hope is in God. And if we hope and trust and believe in Him, He will come through. He did that for me, and it says in the Word that He makes the foolish things of this world confound the wise. And I really believe He's doing that with this, because this to me is such a foolish thing. Are you kidding me? A plant spray is going to completely heal me. That was invented by a team in Switzerland that was quantum physicists, and I don't really understand it, and they can't publish their studies because if they do, they'll be taken down by the government. Come on. Right? Foolish things to confound the wise, but He's doing it. He's doing it. And we've got to heal. I believe that that's critical in the times to come. Okay, I'm going to wrap this video. I tried to keep it short, but probably wasn't. Please share this. If you know somebody that is stuck, because I, at one point last year, no one got it. No one. We'd call dear people I love and respect that we knew in person. They'd be like, Julia, get out there. Get out to the living room. Push yourself. I couldn't even sit up on the couch and watch TV because it would affect my nervous system so much. I couldn't sleep that night. And I knew that, but they didn't, and they didn't understand it. And I understand what it's like to just feel completely hopeless. And also like you're crazy. But you're not crazy, okay? You're not. It's not in your head. And I believe this will only get worse. So that's why our hope has to be in God and a greater power than ourselves. Because we are going to be attacked. And we're going to need all the help we can get in the days ahead. That's my firm belief. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hearing this. Thank you for being a part of the resistance. The life of Jesus is so, I think it would be considered taboo by most Americans, even American Christians, because He went in synagogues and He healed people and He cast out demons, and church didn't look like church. And I think we have to believe in the unbelievable to get close to Him. So be willing to do that. And I'm telling you, He will heal you. It's happened for me, and I know it'll happen for you too. And sometimes you just got to stay the path. And you just got to believe, and you got to keep saying Romans 8:11. And if the Spirit of Him that raised Jesus from the dead is living in me, that's active voice, is living in me. Walk with Him. He will walk with you. Is living in me. Then He who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to my mortal body because of His Spirit that lives in me. That's an active voice. And Hebrews 4:12 says the Word of God is alive and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, penetrating even to dividing soul and spirit, joint and marrow. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart. There are things we can't even begin to understand that we are both up against and forces that we can rely on that will always have our back. So if you stay tuned to this channel, I'm not going to promise you daily content because I really just want to give you the best. But I will promise you some of the best, deepest content you're ever going to hear on these topics. I want people that are unafraid. We need to be unafraid. If I get banned here, we'll go to another platform. I don't care. The truth has to be out there. Why are we scared? We must be unafraid. If He died for us, why are we shirking and hiding to share any truth? So I, for one, will be unafraid. Thank you for being here with me. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I read all of them. And we got to remember, days might feel dark and heavy, but they can still be very bright. I went outside yesterday and the birds are still singing. I got green grass growing. People are like, Julia, look, your smart meter, it's killing everything. The solar on your home, it's killing everything. I'm like, then explain that patch of green grass, brighter than any grass I've seen on our entire street. all the birds singing in the morning, and these unexpected, beautiful orange flowers growing in that green grass. And we live in a desert. I'm telling you, he can do that. He can make a way in the wilderness. So don't forget that. And don't undervalue the power of God. Because he reigns over all this evil, and he has the final say. I pray the Lord blesses you and keeps you and causes his face to shine upon you. It says, those that look to the Lord are radiant. I'll see you in the next video.